There are four main accounts of the first vision that we consider to be first-hand accounts because Joseph either wrote them himself or caused them to be dictated to a scribe.
We are really fortunate in this great array of accounts of the first vision that we have. They differ in their tone, they differ in some of the details that are emphasized, depending on when in his life Joseph Smith wrote them. For each of those versions, there was a different purpose in mind, a different audience in mind.
The first was probably written in the summer of 1832. It's in the handwriting of Joseph Smith and his scribe, Frederick G. Williams, and it's in the front of a blank book, which later became Joseph Smith's first letter book. And it's distinctive in that it focuses on his personal feelings and his need for forgiveness, and in that it only talks about the appearance of the Son, Jesus Christ, telling him that his sins are forgiven.
He's quite vulnerable in this account. He talks about his teenage sinfulness. You can feel the anxiety and the frustration in his inability to find a church where he can find forgiveness of his sins. Characteristically, then, it emphasizes the atonement of Christ. More than any of the other accounts, the 1832 account talks about redemption from personal sinfulness through Christ's atonement.
The next major account of the first vision is in 1835, and this is written in Joseph Smith's journal. At this time, it was being kept by his scribe, Warren Parrish. And Joseph Smith received a visit from Robert Matthews, who is also known as Matthias the prophet.
Probably this was a very interesting discussion, maybe a little combative if we could actually have seen it, but he described the first vision to a visitor and recorded that in his journal, and that became also part of the 1834-1836 history of the church.
It is interesting in that it mentions two beings, but it does not explicitly identify them as the Father and the Son. The next major account of Joseph Smith's first vision is the account written in 1838, which was later published in the church newspaper as the history of Joseph Smith. We have an excerpt that appears in the Pearl of Great Price, which is one of the four standard works for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Those serial installments of the history of Joseph Smith were later compiled by B.H. Roberts and published as the history of the church, period 1, for Joseph Smith. And the fourth and final of the four first-hand accounts by Joseph Smith is a letter that he wrote to John Wentworth, who is the editor of the Chicago Democrat newspaper. Now, Wentworth himself had asked Joseph Smith for a brief overview of the church so that he could pass it on to a friend who was writing a history of the state of New Hampshire, which had recently had a lot of Mormon success in proselytizing. It never appeared in the Chicago Democrat or in the history of New Hampshire, but the Mormons, the Latter-day Saints, did publish it in the church newspaper, the Times and Seasons, in March of 1842. In the first volume of the history series of the Joseph Smith papers, you can look at these accounts of the first vision by Joseph Smith. They're all available there and easy to access and to study. And also on the website, they are available. And in fact, on the Joseph Smith papers website, there's a section in which the accounts of the first vision themselves have been compiled, and it's easy for anyone to go there and to be able to study those different accounts.